Hello everyone, Voodoo here, and Season 4 has finally arrived to World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Now much like Season 4 of Shadowlands, Season 4 of Dragonflight is a bit of a remix season. We're revisiting old things like the raids, and I guess the dungeons this time, and with a ton of new stuff and trinkets from all across the entire expansion. So in this video, I'm going to give you guys the talents, trinkets, gear, rotation, stats, everything you need to play Havoc Demon Hunter at its best in both Raid and Mythic Plus for Dragonflight Season 4. While you're here, make sure you like the video, comment, and subscribe. I think we're actually past 10,000 by the time you're seeing this, which is insane. So thank you all so much. And with that, let's go on to the video. So when you start off the season, or if you're a brand new Demon Hunter just getting into it, this is the build you should be playing in Raid. This is the Inertia build from last season. It's very good in Cleave, has pretty alright single target damage, and doesn't suffer too much from downtime and is very highly burst oriented. You're also able to drop something like Furious Gaze for Rage Fire for even more Cleave damage, and you will be playing this on fights in this tier. I guess there's 3 different raid tiers, so it makes sense. But any fight with lots of Cleave or where burst is required, this is going to be the build. Later on, when you get more geared and you end up getting trinkets like Anvil and I guess Signet Brand, then you're going to want to swap to this build for pure single target. This build is roughly 2 to 2.5 to 3% ahead of the other build, and it is esoteric low mover. This build is named as such because you don't actually take Unbound Chaos or the Momentum talents. It's actually very, very easy to play. So this is going to be your build for pure single target or fights where you don't really need a ton of AoE cleave. The cleave on this build is still very good with Inner Demon, and it's possible to drop something like 1 point in Chaotic Disposition to pick up a Glaive Tempest for even more cleave in raids. That being said, if there's lots of downtime in a fight, or if a fight is good with something like Rage Fire, this build's not going to do as well as the other one. Likewise, it's a very flat profile since you're not running Essence Break, so the burst damage isn't really there, and on fights like Smolderon or something where you have those burst windows, the other build, Inertia, might be better. So, long story short, this is your sustained single target / low cleave fights, and the other one, the Inertia build, is for your more cleave oriented or more downtime / bursty fights. Both of these are good. You can play both of them on every single fight if you'd like to. They're both within a few percentage of each other, but that's how you'd use each of them for different scenarios. In Mythic Plus, this is basically the only build you're going to want to play. It's really far ahead of the no mover options, but you can drop out some stuff, and I'll show a no mover build after. However, if you want to be optimal Mythic Plus, this is the one. It's like 10% ahead of everything else. So this is the Inertia build. You'll see we have stuff like Rage Fire. We've dropped something like Serrated Glaive, and we've picked up Glaive Tempest. Now, Glaive Tempest and Essence Break are basically interchangeable. Both of these do essentially the same DPS over the course of a key. Essence Break a little bit more priority and single target damage. Glaive Tempest a little bit more AoE and just, blasting packs damage. At the end of the day, these do the same thing. Glaive Tempest is a little bit easier to play, so that's why I'm recommending it here, but you really can play both. We have keys timed at the highest level with both. Havocs are playing either, so you really can pick and choose whichever you'd like here. Rest of the build, pretty self-standard. Inertia is good for damage windows. Fire Inside gives you more Immolation Aura charges, which feed into big Rage Fires. Rage Fire, Glaive Tempest, Essence Break is kind of the core of your damage in Mythic Plus as a Havoc Demon Hunter. Before we get to that though, a word from this video's sponsor, G Fuel. G Fuel is a dietary supplement brand focused on delivering hydration formula or energy formula in fun and delicious flavors. They're made without sugar, which helps keep focus high and reduce bad side effects and crashes. They come in a ton of fun and colorful and delicious flavors, as you see here before you. There's a ton of them on this page, and are aimed to help keep your focus and energy high, whether you're doing a late night gaming session or going hard at the gym. I personally don't like the taste of coffee at all. I find it really, really bitter, and I use these in the morning on my way to work if I'm feeling really tired, or at the gym if I need a boost, or even while I'm raiding at night after a long days of work. With the new year, G Fuel is the perfect way to up your game and allow you to be focused and energized on any New Year goals you might have. As part of the sponsorship, G Fuel has sent me 2 different tubs here to try out. They've sent me Hype Sauce and they've sent me Blue Ice. Now, I've already tried Hype Sauce. It's like a little fun raspberry lemonade thing. It's actually really delicious. My girlfriend and I loved it. But in today's video, we're going to try out Blue Ice. So we're going to unwrap it here, put it into my shaker cup, and give it a go. Give it a little unwrap. So I have my shaker cup here, sent by G Fuel. We're gonna put a scoop of the powder in, put it back in there, close up the lid here. You can see it's already starting to turn color. And give it a big shake. You can see it immediately right away comes the bright blue. Give it a little shake here. So this is Blue Ice. Pop the lid and have a little drink. Oh, that's really good. It's just like a blue raspberry flavor. It's actually really good. It's one of my favorite flavors. Yeah, I like that. And not too sweet too. So it's just blue raspberry. Really good flavor, blue ice. So delicious flavors. The other one too, hype sauce here that I have is like a pink lemonade. So really recommend you guys trying these out. Again, if they're low in sugar, they're zero sugar, so they help you with focus and everything like that. About the same caffeine as a cup of coffee in like 14 ounces here. Really delicious, really good value. Use code Voodoo at checkout or the link in the description to go do that. Have these guys help you level up your game in the new year. So thanks again for everybody. Thanks for G Fuel for sponsoring the video, and enjoy the rest of the video. I'm taking another sip. The final talent build I want to give it today is the No Mover Mythic Plus build. You can see this build drops basically all of the movement talents to pick up stuff like Blind Fury, Serrated Glaive, and then also Glaive Tempest, as well as Essence Break. This build is behind the Inertia build. All these talents here bring a lot of damage, roughly 10% or so, but it is very playable in Mythic Plus if you don't want to do the movement things. You still take initiative because it's so strong, just by proccing in every single pack, but you really don't need to use Vengeful Retreat to refresh this. It's good independently. This is a little bit easier than the Inertia builds, but again, it is going to be worse. So play this if you want something a little simpler without having to worry about the movement. Once you have your talents all ready, the next thing is going to be your rotation. In this section, I'm going to cover the single target rotation first, as well as the Mythic Plus rotation. For the Inertia build, it plays very similar to Mythic Plus, so if you need it on a Cleave fight, just go to that section. Otherwise, this will be on the pure esoteric low mover section. So the main idea here is just to generate and spend as much Fury as possible and have as high uptime of Demonic as we can. This is due to the haste increase from Demonic. It's a bit of a feedback loop because of that, and it plays really well with all of their procced effects like our Trinkets that really are boosting up Havoc's damage this tier. So we'll do a simple opener. So you want to start off with a Sigil of Flame, Immolation Aura, and then Spellblade. Go into an I-Beam, then use the Hunt, then use an Annihilation, followed by a Death Sweep, Vengeful Retreat, and Meta at the same time. Death Sweep again, Annihilation, I-Beam, and one final Annihilation. From here, the main idea is to just generate and spend as much Fury as physically possible, making sure you always have enough Fury to use Death Sweep on cooldown, and otherwise just kind of strafing around to grab your souls and just using as many Chaos Strikes as possible. The good idea to basically just push everything on cooldown in this build, just so that you're not wasting or losing any Fury usage. And really, it's not that hard to use. There's no really complex windows. The only thing that can come up is that whenever you are out of your first demonic window, your first meta window, it's important to always get 2 Death Sweeps into each I-Beam. This is because Death Sweep is just so incredibly powerful compared to Death Sweep, Blade Dance. So here we have I-Beam, I'm not in demonic. I'll use my I-Beam, I'll Death Sweep immediately, then Annihilation, and by doing that, I will always be able to get 2 Death Sweeps inside of this window. Boom. Death Sweep again is just so powerful compared to Blade Dance. You really want to do that, and it's worth holding your Blade Dance for a few seconds so that those line up. The other thing is Vengeful Retreat. It's very advantageous to use this with an I-Beam whenever possible, so you can delay it for about 5 to 10 seconds to sync them up if you want to. Otherwise, it's really good to just use them on cooldown. Really just generate as much Fury as possible. Use your meta to reset I-Beam and Death Sweep. Try and pair Death Sweep with Initiative. And always make sure you're trying to get 2 Death Sweeps in every single I-Beam window. Otherwise, don't overcap on Fury. Always have Fury to use Blade Dance. It's not that complex. So with the AoE build, the main idea here is going to be maximizing your Ragefire windows and your Inertia windows. This is done basically by just using them as much as you can, but you want to use them on targeted things. For Ragefire, it's very important that you just stick in the pack the whole time. And for Inertia, you want to use them on stuff like Blade Dance, Death Sweep, and Glaive Tempest. If you're using Essence Break instead, you want to always have an Inertia for your Essence Break window, and we'll cover that at the end of this section. Going into an AoE place like this, the general idea that you want to do here, and we will be using our Trinket because Ashes is going to be good in Season 4, is you want to start off with a Sigil of Flame, and then use an Immolation Aura in the pack. Follow that up by Fell Rushing to get the buff, I-Beam, Hunt in, use Glaive Tempest, use another Immolation Aura, Fell Rush, Death Sweep, Vengeful Retreat, Meta, Death Sweep, and then another I-Beam. If you actually stay in the pack and don't hunt across the room, you'll end up getting your Inertia and everything there, and from there you can just use subsequent procs as they come up, not to overcap, and just buffing things like Glaive Tempest and Death Sweep. Those are going to be your highest damaging abilities, and really it's just about staying in the pack, using your Immolation Auras and your I-Beams as much as you can, and buffing your Glaive Tempests and buffing your Death Sweeps. Nothing too crazy here. Again, it's just going to be about focusing in on those inertia windows and using inertia to buff, again, Glaive Tempest, Death Sweep, and Blade Dance. Also the Hunt Dot, I guess that's pretty good as well. So we're coming up here with another I-Beam, so we're just going to pretend that I have nothing going on. I'll use my Immolation Aura here, Fel Rush through, drop a Glaive Tempest, I-Beam, Death Sweep, and then I'll just Hunt. Throw that in as well, and we'll have another one, Fel Rush here. We'll be able to get this up on the Blade Dance, and you get the general idea here, right? You want to buff your strong abilities that hit multiple targets. That's going to be the main way that you do damage as Mythic Plus, as well as just staying in the pack and getting your big Rage Fire explosions. It is a small gain to use Immolation Aura, to use Inertia, buffing the last 5 seconds of Immolation Aura. However, it's not that big of a deal, so you really don't need to worry about that if you don't want to. So nothing too hard there. Buff your Glaive Tempest, buff your I-Beams, buff your Death Sweeps. Use your meta to reset I-Beam and Death Sweep for a bigger burst in a pack. And you can even save it a little bit with this build because you don't have Essence Break. You can delay it a bit to stun something or to even use it as a bit of an immunity. So with Essence Break, the rotation for this is mostly the same. And again, Rage Fire could just be Serrated Glaive. Won't change anything too much. But the main idea here is you always want to have one charge of Immolation Aura for every single Essence Break. This is going to be much better in single target, but in AoE it's a lot more rigid and easier to mess up because Glaive Tempest offers a lot more freedom. Essence Break's a lot more rigid, but it can do a lot of burst damage, and in raid with Cleave fights, this is going to be your best bet. To show the Essence Break damage rotation, I will be doing it on a single target dummy, but the same thing does apply for AoE. The only difference is where you use your Immolation Aura for the Fel Rush. So we're gonna go into this dummy over here and just pretend this is our opener. The way you wanna do is going to be very similar to the other build. You want to use Sigil of Flame, Immolation Aura, and a Fel Blade, followed by an I-Beam and the Hunt. Then you're going to Fel Rush through, turn, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Vengeful Retreat, meta, Death Sweep, followed up by another I-Beam. From here, again, same idea as the other build. You want to use all your other Immolation Aura charges on your Death Sweeps and on your Hunts, and always save one for the Immolation Aura, for the Essence Break combo. That's kind of going to be the general idea. When you're outside of meta, you want to use your Vengeful Retreat to buff the I-Beam mostly because it's the least valuable of all the buffs. When you're doing it on opener, you will get initiative from the boss itself, so you delay that initiative, you delay that VR a little bit to line up with the meta, just to refresh initiative. We're going to do another Essence Break combo here without meta this time. Again, it's going to be pretty similar. Have some Fury going into it, pop an Immolation Aura, Vengeful Retreat and I-Beam at the same time, Fel Rush in, turn, Essence Break, Death Sweep, and then 2 Annihilations. If you are doing this in AoE, it's going to be very similar as well. However, you want to just kind of flip the the Fel Rush and the Vengeful Retreat. By doing this, you'll get the inertia buff on your I-Beam and on the first Death Sweep, instead of on the Death Sweep and the following 2 Annihilations. In AoE, that is going to be more damage. So I'll come back in about 10 seconds and show you the more AoE one, and then we'll move on to other segments. So again, here we are with the AoE version of Essence Break. You're gonna do Immolation Aura and have enough Fury for I-Beam, obviously. So we'll just generate a little bit here. And then we're going to Fel Rush through I-Beam, turn, backflip, Essence Break, Death Sweep. And you see by doing that, I lose initiative on the last 2 hits here, but because Fel Devastation and I-Beam actually do AoE damage and Chaos Strike and Annihilation do not, you end up getting more damage overall. So if you're against a single target, you want to use the initiative after the I-Beam, the inertia, the Fel Rush, whatever, after the I-Beam. If you're on multiple targets, use it before the I-Beam. So it's just about swapping places of VR and inertia depending on against one target or multi-targets. Let's have a discussion about stats. So stats this tier are going to be a little bit weird because there's not really going to be a stat priority. It's really going to depend on how geared you are and what other stats you are. And this has really been true the whole expansion, but because of something called the stat DR or diminishing return introduced at the start of Shadowlands, we've hit the point now where we have so much of certain stats that's actually more valuable to put stats in other points. For a general priority, you're going to want to prioritize Critical Strike and Mastery, with Haste and Versatility following the rear there. However, this tier, we're going to be getting so much stats from our gear that we're going to hit a point where Critical Strike and Mastery don't gain as much value per point because of these diminishing returns. Once you hit that point, haste and versatility are going to jump above them and become the new things that you want to gear towards. This is actually part of the reason why the new best build in single target has come on top, and that's because it likes haste more than the other builds. So long story short, while you can use Critical Strike, Mastery, Haste, Verse as a general gearing guide, you're going to want to be familiar with raid bots in order to sim yourself to the best of your abilities. When you change towards a more haste or verse gem set or enchant set is really going to depend on what other gear you have and what your eye level is. I can't really give a general recommendation beyond that, but just always be simming, and that way you'll be at the best of your abilities to deal with what you are doing. Next up, let's chat about gear. So the first thing is going to be embellishments. Now, embellishments in season 4 are going to be pretty straightforward. For Mythic Plus, you're always going to want blue silken lining, 2 of them. The place where you put them doesn't really matter. Belt, wrist, boots, neck are all good options, cloak even. So anything there is going to be great. I think our Biz Sim has them on the wrists and the belt, but really anything you end up using where, it's a lower item level slot, something you don't have, it's going to be good. So just craft based on what your current gear is going to be. You can always shift it around later. In terms of raid, blue silken lining will be king in any multi-target scenario or any fight where you have 50% or higher uptime. That's going to be pretty true for, I think, a lot of the fights in this tier. But on fights where you don't get that uptime, then you will want Toxic Thorn Foot Wraps and a Toxic Armor Patch. Thorn Foot Wraps obviously have to be on the boot slot, and then we have the Armor Patch on the wrists. So if you craft your BSL, boots and wrists are going to be a good slot because you can swap between them pretty easily. I'll probably do boots and belt because belt has a socket slot, so that'd be pretty easy to sync an early socket into. But realistically speaking, both of those are fine for raid. BSL is the good option if you're doing both early and also for Mythic Plus. So that's kind of it on embellishments. Nothing else is really that good. In terms of trinkets, here's where it gets a little complicated. So for raid, you absolutely need to pick up an Elementium Pocket Anvil as soon as possible. This is the trinket that kind of enables the single target build to work. The second best one is going to be the Cataclysmic Signet brand. Those two together are a ton of single target damage. Even on 3-minute fights, which is pretty kind of crazy, with just how much haste we have. The Inertia build is going to be the same thing. Those two are very powerful. However, other good options on the Inertia build or on shorter fights under 3 minutes are going to be Mana Grief Torch. That one's especially good if you are going to be able to leverage resets and get a lot more of them. And Augury of the Primal Flame, which can just RNG itself to be good. But those two trinkets especially are going to be a bit better on Inertia. Obviously not as good as the other two, but on a shorter fight, if you're playing Inertia, those would be good. And on short fights in general, like 2 minutes, 2:30 or less. For Mythic Plus, Ashes of the Ember Soul will always 100% be locked in. That trinket is insanely strong and you will use it with your 2-minute burst with meta. For the other slot, it's going to depend. If you can have every single buff, then Icon from the first raid, the very rare trinket, is going to be very good. Same with OCE, Ominous Chromatic Essence. If you can have every single buff, setting that to crit and getting the other buffs from your other party members will be very, very good. But that's going to be very hard to do in Mythic Plus. It's going to be almost impossible to get every single buff at once in Mythic Plus for both of those. So the general recommendation for that is going to be Pip's Badge of Friendship as your passive. Now, you don't actually necessarily need to use this 100%. Another good option is actually Grief Torch. Grief Torch will give a lot of priority damage and burst in a pack. It will desync a bit from your Ashes of the Ember Soul, because that one you always want to use with meta for big bursts. But Grief Torch will be good AoE and cleave outside of that, or priority and cleave outside of that. So it's within like 0.5% of Pip's Ashes. So if you want to do more single target / priority, that'll be good. But if you want a more general all-around versatile option, then Pip's Ashes will beat out Grief Torch Ashes in that scenario. Really though, none of those options can go wrong, and you're going to have a lot of ability to get different trinkets this season because of all the bronze bullion. In terms of bronze bullion, the other items you want to pick up early are going to be the 2 rings from the first raid. Both of these very rare rings proc on fire damage, which means that all of Havoc's damage will proc them. One of them does damage, one of them gives you a shield. Both are incredibly powerful. Other strong things to pick up are going to be the Thorncaller's Claw main hand weapon. You're going to want one of these in every single scenario. Its eye level is just going to be crazy strong, give you a really strong proc. The Cope Cloak from Sarkareth is another good one to pick up. Yes, you're going to lose a lot of stamina from it, but theoretically, if you're doing the most damage you can, it will be part of that. For your final weapon, there's going to be 2 options. One of them is going to be Storm Slash from the No-Cud Offensive Dungeon. Now, Storm Slash is interesting, where if it's at 528, it will beat out any other weapon. Now, this is from a mythic vault in your weekly vault, so it's not that likely you'll get it. But even a 522 one is going to be very good as well. The other choice is actually going to be Double Time. Now, Double Time can be gotten from the hard mode or normal mode of Dawn of the Infinite from the first boss, and it drops at either 515 max eye level and normal mode, or 522 max eye level on heroic mode, or hard mode, I guess. If you can get a hard mode 522 Double Time, it is on par on single target. I think it's actually maybe like 0.1% behind or something, but basically on par to a 528 Storm Slash, and clears every other weapon by a sizable amount in AoE. A 515 Double Time is on par to a 522 Storm Slash, and again, beats every other weapon besides a 522 Double Time in AoE. So you're going to want to farm this weekly. Now, I'm pretty sure you can only do hard mode or normal mode once a week, so it'll behoove you to do hard mode every week as much as you can. Just go in, do the first boss, and get out, although I guess everything drops kind of heroic gear in there, so it won't be that bad anyways. But by doing this, you want to maximize your chances at getting that weapon. As far as I know, it can't come from the vault, so you're not going to have any ability to get it there. Your only chance is the weekly drop from that first boss there. So good luck. I guess it's a little bit easier in getting it from vault, but sucks we have to get it, but it is going to be one of our best weapons. In terms of everything else for gear, obviously you want tier set, so that takes up a lot of slots there. And kind of just sim, right? You want stuff that has critical strike and mastery, but if you hit the threshold where you don't want that anymore, then haste and verse are going to be pretty good. So really just sim yourself for the rest of the gear. It's going to heavily depend on what you have, what your eye level is, and what build you're playing for. So can't really recommend gear too well there, but you know, just kind of get high eye level at first and sim yourself as you go. Finally, a quick little blurb on consumables. Consumables this tier, again, not really going to be a big deal. As long as you're using Corrupted File or Iced File of Corrupting Rage, the crit one, that's going to be your best bet. Obviously, if you can't afford the 3-star one, you can use like the 3-star Verse Flask, because that'll be a bit better than the 2-star crit file. But we're going for most optimal damage here. Use the crit file. Other than that, use the crit mastery food. I think it's called 1000 Bone Tongue Slicer or something like that. At this point in the tier, in the season expansion, it's doing way more damage. And for gems and everything like that, just sim yourself. At a certain point, it'll probably want you to do like mastery verse gems or something like that, but early on, crit mastery will be good, so just sim yourself on those. Nothing else to be said about that, really. I believe also for the leg enchant, the one that gives you verse, I don't remember its name, I'll throw it up on screen, is also a bit of an upgrade at this point in the tier, but again, just sim yourself, right? For consumables, that's just the way to go. Corrupting File is your best. Everything else can be simmed. So there you go on consumables. Wafting Devotion actually for weapons too. It's just going to clear everything else. So that is going to be it for my Season 4 Havoc Demon Hunter guide. You should expect a lot more content from me about Season 4 and all the other stuff happening as time goes on. I plan to have like a bullion guide for Havoc, as well as like a gearing guide, and then more in-depth guides for each of the builds, just for more intricacies and stuff like that. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We hit 10K, which is crazy, and I want to thank you all so much for that. I really, really, really appreciate it. You guys are actually wonderful, amazing people, every single one of you. So again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Also want to shout out my sponsor of this video, G Fuel. Go check them out. Use code Voodoo for 20% off and a little bit of support to the channel as well. But yeah, so if you have any questions, drop them down below. Join my Discord. I'll be live on Twitch streaming stuff for the new season as well as alpha if I get it, and mob stuff whenever that comes out. So lots of cool stuff happening in WoW. You should expect a Vengeance guide similar to this, and maybe like a Ret Paladin or Devastation Evoker guide in the future as well. We'll see if I have time or the want for that. But again, thank you for watching the video. Let me know if you have any questions. Shout out to everyone in the Demon Hunter Discord who helped kind of theorycraft everything with me this tier, and I will see you guys next time. Peace. A big thank you to all of my channel members. Thank you Sky Elk, Andrew Keenell, 100,001 Zans, Guillermo Lamas, Brad Wisniak, It's Bulk, and Magic Man 133. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel and get a few perks along the way, check the link in the description to become a channel member, or go follow me on Twitch and sub there. Again, thank you all so much. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time.